Senator Hirono.
Secretary Cisneros, and probably for Mr. Constable too. My office has heard from our service members in Hawaii that they are deeply concerned about imminent cuts to their cost of living allowance by around 50%. That's a big potential cut. Certainly, I share their concerns. Hawaii has the most expensive cost of living of any state in the country. Today, the cost of a gallon of gas in Hawaii is $4.85, more than $1 above the national average of $3.46. A gallon of milk in Hawaii is about $7.25 compared to the national average of $4.41. The cost of housing in Hawaii is higher than any other state. I could go on. As we continue to combat inflation, the thought of slashing the cost of living allowance for service members in Hawaii is absurd. Secretary Cisneros, does the Department of Defense have information suggesting the cost of living has fallen by 50% in Hawaii? If not, how does DoD justify cutting the cost of living allowance for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians, and Marines in Hawaii? And really, how do you justify this kind of potential cuts?
Ma'am, the cost of living allowance that you're referring to is over in Hawaii, they get what we call OCOL, an overseas cost of living allowance.
Okay.
And it really is about trying to bring it in line with what to make sure that their dollars goes just as far as it does here in the United States, in the continental United States, I should say.
I'm glad you know the continental U.S. because Hawaii
Yes.
is a state.
But
Go on.
what we're seeing here, right, is that the struggles have really kind of, with inflation, and inflation doesn't really play into the COLA analysis and how we come up with that. But in order to kind of make it, well, in order to what happened as it's evening, things here in the continental United States have grown as well and have gotten more expensive. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Constable again to kind of go into detail of how the formula is figured out there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Senator.
Well, first of all, let me just get to, because I'm running out of time. So you believe this kind of a huge cut for service members in Hawaii is justified? And if so, could you send me the justification or send this committee the justification?
We could provide you with the information.
You consider this kind of cut to be justified?
I think the way that COLA is figured out and the system that it is and the way it is, and it's not just, I will say, ma'am, it's not just Hawaii, but it's all
Alaska?
around
Well, wherever
Germany,
you're making these
Germany,
kinds of
Japan, all these areas are facing the same cut because, again, the COLA is meant to bring the pay scale or pay in alignment with what it would be here to make sure that the dollar, if they were here in the States, that the dollar would stretch just as far as they are overseas. But as we struggle here, or people are struggling here in the continental United States, it's kind of even the playing field out. So, but we can provide you with that information, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Constable.
Well, clearly, I don't think that these kinds of cuts are justified for service members in Hawaii. They're already having a pretty hard time. I was glad to see the president's budget included multiple investments in our service members, like $90 million to expand full-day pre-K, $209 million for suicide prevention efforts, and $637 million for continued investment in sexual assault prevention and response. And although we've made some changes over time in how the military would deal with sexual assault cases, it's still an issue. It continues to be a scourge. So I'm glad that this kind of investment is being made to continue to fight the scourge. And I appreciate the Department of Defense's commitment to taking care of its people, but I think there is more to do, especially for service members considering their family planning options. Mr. Secretary Cisneros, what is the importance of the Department of Defense's new policies to ensure access to reproductive health care for our service members? And also, cryopreservation is a fertility tool that service members, men and women, could use if they wish to have children in the future. This is something that the British Armed Services provides. So could you give me your views on what the cost of cryopreservation under TRICARE would be? And could this not be an important recruiting and retention tool for the military, all of the services are facing those issues.
You know, as you stated, Senator, I believe family planning is very important, and we've done a lot, I believe, to kind of help the service members with that. We have walk-in hours for contraceptives for our service members at our MTFs, now that they can go and make sure that they are on a plan there. We initiated the policies there to help support reproductive health care for our service members as well, where they're denied access to certain types of health care in certain states, where we'll be able to ensure that they'll be able to be travel in order to get that health care. As far as what you're asking for, I can turn over
Cryopreservation.
to preservation. I can turn over to Dr. Martinez, who can go into depth with that.
Senator, thank you for the question. We do provide the services to service members that may have had trauma or are facing cancer. So it's a very limited and only for service members. We are not providing the care for all the beneficiaries in the TRICARE system. So, and I don't know why. So
You're saying that you provide cryopreservation options?
we may provide that in the case of trauma or in the case of
Okay, that's a very limited kind of set of
Yes, ma'am.
circumstances. So I would ask that you look at what the British Armed Forces is doing in this area and let us know if this is something that we should contemplate.
I will do, ma'am.
Obviously, I support going forward with it. Thank you, Madam Chair.